The envelope trembled in her hands. 23 years she'd kept it hidden, tucked behind a dresser drawer, beneath old photographs, away from questions she couldn't answer. Now, under the bright lights of the Dr. Phil stage, with cameras rolling and her family just feet away, Jennifer Hayes was about to read words that would shatter everything they thought they knew. Dr. Phil leaned forward. "Jennifer, before you read that letter, I need to ask you something." His voice was quieter than usual, stripped of the usual TV confidence. "Are you absolutely certain you're ready for this?" She nodded, unable to speak. What happened next would become one of the most replayed moments in the show's 20-year history. 3 weeks earlier, Jennifer Hayes had sent a desperate email to the Dr. Phil show. Subject line: "I'm destroying my family with a lie." Jennifer, 47, looked like any suburban mother. But behind that normalcy was a secret so heavy it had bent her life into shapes she no longer recognized. Her family sat in the front row, her husband Michael, their 2 teenage children, and her elderly mother. They'd flown to Los Angeles thinking they were there to discuss family communication problems. The show began normally. Dr. Phil introduced the family, asked basic questions. Jennifer spoke in careful sentences, the way someone talks when they're terrified of saying too much. Then Dr. Phil said the words that changed everything. "Jennifer, I understand you have something you need to share with your family. Something you've been carrying for over 2 decades. She pulled the envelope from her purse. Yellowed with age, corners softened from being handled countless times. The handwriting on the front was faded but still legible. "To my daughter." Her mother's face went pale. She knew that handwriting. "Mom!" Jennifer's voice cracked. "This letter is from Dad. He wrote it 3 days before he died." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Something big was coming. "I never told you about this letter because I was 17 and pregnant, and Dad knew, and he made me promise something I've regretted every single day since." Dr. Phil held up his hand. "Jennifer, your father passed 23 years ago?" "Yes." "And you've carried this letter, this secret, every day since?" She nodded, tears flowing freely. Dr. Phil did something he rarely does. He stood up and addressed the cameras directly. "Stop the tape." The studio froze. In 20 years of television, Dr. Phil had maybe done this 5 times. He turned back to Jennifer. "What you're about to do, reading this letter, sharing this truth, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain?" Jennifer looked at her family. Then back at Dr. Phil. "I'm dying," she said simply. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. I can't take this secret with me." The studio went completely silent. Dr. Phil sat back down slowly. Her daughter started to stand, but Dr. Phil gently signaled for her to wait. "Let your mother finish." Jennifer unfolded the letter with shaking hands. "Dear Jenny," she began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're facing the hardest decision of your life. I know you're scared. I know you want to keep the baby. But sweetheart, you're 17. The family adopting your baby, they're good people." Her mother stood up. "What baby?" "Mom, when I was 17, I got pregnant. Dad helped me hide it. I was at a home for unwed mothers. I gave birth to a baby girl on July 18, 2002, and I gave her up for adoption." The revelation hit like a physical force. Her husband's face went white. The teenagers looked at each other, processing. "You have a daughter," her son said slowly. "We have a sister." Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil let the moment breathe. He'd learned over 2 decades that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply witness, not intervene. Let the family absorb, let the truth settle like sediment in water. "There's more," Jennifer said, her voice barely a whisper now. She looked back at the letter. "The adoptive parents have agreed to let you write to her when she turns 18. They'll give her your letters, and she can decide if she wants to meet you. But Jenny, you have to promise me something. You can't tell your mother." It would break her heart. She'd never forgive herself for not knowing, for not helping. Please keep this between us. Jennifer looked directly at her mother. So I did. I promised Dad I'd never tell you. And for 23 years, I kept that promise. Even when it was killing me inside. Her mother was crying now, openly, the kind of crying that comes from deep wounds suddenly exposed to air. You were alone, she said. You were just a baby yourself, and you were alone. I wasn't completely alone, Jennifer said. Dad was there. He held my hand during labor. He was the only one who ever met her. What was her name? Dr. Phil asked gently. Grace. I named her Grace. The word hung in the air like a prayer. Dr. Phil turned to his producers off camera. Bring it in, he said simply. A production assistant walked onto the stage carrying a folder. Dr. Phil took it, held it for a moment, then looked at Jennifer. Jennifer, when you applied to be on this show, you mentioned that you've been searching for your daughter. That you've been working with an adoption agency, trying to make contact before. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Yes, Jennifer said. I know I broke my promise to Dad, but I'm dying, and I needed to try. I needed her to know that I loved her, that giving her up wasn't because I didn't want her. Dr. Phil opened the folder slowly. Jennifer, I need to tell you something. The agency contacted us 3 days ago. The world seemed to stop. They found Grace. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth. Her husband grabbed her other hand. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath collectively. More than that, Dr. Phil continued, and now there was something in his voice, something that in 2 decades of television, audiences had learned meant something extraordinary was about to happen. Grace asked if she could be here. Today. What? Jennifer couldn't process the words. She's here? Dr. Phil stood again. He walked to the side stage door, opened it himself, another break in protocol, and gestured. A young woman walked onto the stage. She was 23, with Jennifer's eyes and her father's smile. She wore jeans and a simple blue sweater, and she was carrying something in her hand. Jennifer stood so fast her chair rolled backward. Grace? The young woman nodded, crying now too. Hi, Mom. The embrace happened before anyone could speak again. 23 years of separation, of wondering, of hoping, collapsed into a single moment. The audience was on their feet, many openly weeping. Camera operators were wiping their eyes between shots. Dr. Phil stepped back, giving them space. This wasn't about television anymore. This was about something far more sacred. When they finally pulled apart, Grace held up what she'd been carrying. An envelope, identical to Jennifer's. Same yellowed paper, same faded handwriting. The family that adopted me, Grace said, her voice shaking but clear. They gave me this on my 18th birthday. It's from my grandfather. He wrote to me too. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. Grace opened her letter. Her hands were steadier than her birth mother's had been, but only just. Dear Grace, she read. That's the name your mother chose for you. I hope your new parents kept it. Grace means undeserved favor, a gift you didn't earn but received anyway. That's what you are, a gift. She stopped, looked at Jennifer. He loved you so much. In this whole letter, every line is about how brave you were, how much you loved me, how hard this decision was for you. He wrote you a letter, Jennifer said in wonder. All these years I thought he just wanted me to forget. No, Grace shook her head. He wanted me to know. And he wanted you to be okay with your decision. She looked back at the letter. Here's what he wrote at the end. Grace's voice grew stronger, reading her grandfather's final words. Grace, if you're reading this, then you're old enough to understand that sometimes the hardest choices are made out of the deepest love. Your mother gave you life twice. Once when she carried you, and once when she let you go to a family who could give you everything she couldn't. Find her if you can. Tell her I was wrong to make her promise silence. Tell her she was never alone, and she should never have had to carry this secret. Tell her I'm proud of her. Always. The letter ended there. Jennifer collapsed back into her chair, not from weakness but from the weight of Grace itself, the thing her daughter had been named for. Her mother crossed from the audience to the stage, pulled both Jennifer and Grace into her arms. "I'm so sorry," Jennifer's mother kept saying. "I'm so sorry you went through that alone." "She wasn't alone," Grace said quietly. "She had Grandpa. And now she has me." Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He walked over to the family, still embracing, still crying, still processing, and knelt down beside them. No cameras followed him. No microphones picked up what he said. For 2 full minutes, Dr. Phil McGraw, the man who'd built a career on televised therapy, simply offered comfort beyond the lens. When he finally stood and returned to his mark, his eyes were red. "Folks," he addressed the audience and cameras, "I've been doing this show for 20 years. I've seen addiction, abuse, betrayal, loss. But what I just witnessed, what we all just witnessed, this is why I do this work." He picked up the 2 envelopes, held them up. "These letters, written by a dying father to his daughter and his granddaughter, carried in secret for over 2 decades. They're just paper and ink. But they carried something more. They carried truth, and love, and the hope that someday, the right words would heal the right wounds. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming." Grace reached into her purse and pulled out a 3rd envelope. This one was new, white, unsealed. "Dr. Phil," she said, "before I came here today, I wrote something too. For my mom. For Jennifer." She handed it to her birth mother with trembling hands. Jennifer opened it slowly, read silently at first. Then her face crumpled, and she pulled Grace close again. "What does it say?" Dr. Phil asked gently. Grace answered, her voice barely audible. "It says, thank you for choosing life for me. Thank you for loving me enough to let me go. And thank you for being brave enough to find me again. You gave me everything, you gave me a chance." The studio erupted. Not just applause, that inadequate word, but something closer to a collective exhale, a communal release of breath held too long. People were standing, crying, holding strangers beside them. The cameras panned across faces wet with tears, hands clasped in recognition of having witnessed something profound. Dr. Phil waited for the noise to settle, then spoke directly to the camera. "If you're watching this at home, and you're carrying a secret that's destroying you, I want you to hear me. Truth is hard. Truth is painful. But truth is also the only thing that can set you free." He turned back to Jennifer. "You were 17, pregnant, and terrified. Your father did what he thought was best, but he was wrong to make you carry this alone. You deserve support, not secrecy. To Jennifer's mother, you deserve to be there for your daughter when she needed you most. That chance was taken from you. To Grace, you deserve to know your story from the beginning. To Jennifer's husband and children, you deserved honesty from someone you love." He paused, let the weight of those words settle. "But here's what I want you all to understand. This family, right here, right now, they're doing the hardest work humans can do. They're choosing truth over comfort. Connection over pride. Love over fear. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten." Dr. Phil walked over to his desk, picked up a business card, and handed it to Jennifer. "This is the contact information for a family therapist who specializes in reunification and terminal illness. You have 6 months, maybe less. That's not enough time to process 23 years of secrets. But it's enough time to build something new. Something honest." He looked at Grace. "And this is a support group for adoptees who've recently reconnected with birth families. You're going to need people who understand what you're going through. To the whole family, you're going to need professional help navigating this. All of you. What happened here today, This reunion, these revelations, it's beautiful, but it's just the beginning. The real work starts tomorrow. The cameras kept rolling, but the show was over. Dr. Phil sat down on the stage floor, not in his chair, on the actual floor, and the family joined him. Grace asked questions about her birth. Jennifer's daughter asked about this new sister. The husband asked about the grandfather he'd never met. Jennifer's mother simply held Grace's hand and cried grateful tears. Dr. Phil's closing words were spoken directly to Jennifer. Your father was wrong about one thing. He thought keeping the secret would protect your mother's heart. But hearts aren't protected by ignorance, they're protected by truth and trust. What you did today took more courage than giving birth at 17. That took the kind of bravery that changes legacies. He stood, helped Jennifer to her feet. You've got months left. Don't waste them on guilt. You've got a daughter who wants to know you, a family who loves you, and a truth that finally doesn't have to be hidden. Grace put her arm around her birth mother's shoulders. We'll figure it out, she said simply. Together. 5 months after the show, Jennifer passed away. Grace held her hand, along with Jennifer's mother and family. Her last words, "Tell Dad I kept my promise as long as I could. But I'm so glad I broke it." The envelope Jennifer carried for 23 years was buried with her. Grace kept her grandfather's letter, Jennifer's letter, and the one she'd given on stage. 3 envelopes. 3 generations. 1 family, rebuilt through courage. Dr. Phil's final reflection. Jennifer Hayes lived 23 years with a secret that nearly destroyed her. But truth didn't destroy anything. It built something beautiful. Grace got to know her birth mother. A woman got to die honest instead of haunted. He held up a photo, the whole family together, taken 2 weeks before Jennifer's death. This is what courage looks like. Jennifer Hayes, if you're listening somewhere, you did good. You did real good. The envelope, the letter, the secret, they were just paper in the end. But the truth they carried changed everything. And isn't that what truth always does?